Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about the HUD. The HUD stands for the Heads Up Display, HUD. And what that means is the information that the player needs, like for example, how much life they have, how much of a certain resource they have, what items they have equipped maybe. And typically the HUD is information that's either attached to like maybe the top or the bottom or the sides of the screen that's always there so that the player can have quick access to that information. Now, right now, our HUD is just a single number that represents what the current HP for our player character is. And as you get hit, that number goes down. And that works okay, but game design is largely about visual communication. And numbers don't communicate that well. Because if you're in a really heated battle, if you're in a really tense situation in the game, if you have to go up and look at the number up in the top left corner, it's actually way more effort than it is to have some kind of graphic representation of how much life you have. Because like right now, I could glance up and I could see a 10, but I really have to like take a split second and think about, okay, 10 life. I started with 100 life. That means that I'm pretty low. And even though that only takes a fraction of a second, it still is a distraction. Now compare that with this. In this example, I've replaced the number with a graphic, a visual representation that we call a health bar. And every time I get hit, that health bar gets a little bit shorter and it reveals a darker color underneath. Now, if I quickly glance up at this as a player, I can instantly recognize like, okay, I'm about at half life, so I should be kind of careful, right? Or I'm at very low life. If I get hit a couple more times, I'll see that there's only like a sliver of green. And even with a quick glance, I'll be able to read what that means to me in terms of how much life I have left. So graphics communicate so much more effectively than letters or numbers do. So typically for the HUD, we try to avoid letters and numbers and rely on graphics instead. So let's talk about how we can create this health bar. Now to do this, we're going to have to put in a couple graphics that we've already created and exported. If you haven't made the graphics for the health bar yet, do that first, but we already have. So what we're going to do is we're going to put those into Construct. Now you want to make sure that you're on the right layer for this. All of your HUD stuff should be on the HUD layer. If it's on a different layer, you're going to run into some problems. So let's make sure that we have the HUD layer selected. Now let's right click anywhere in the game space. Let's insert a new object. It's going to be a sprite. And let's start with the health bar border. Click anywhere. And let's take that border that we created for our health bar. If you want to, you can cut off the extra space. If you hit that crop button, cuts off the extra space. And again, I don't recommend doing that on anything that you have animations with. But if it's something simple like a health bar border, we can definitely crop off the extra space. There's our border. Let's move the text out of the way for now, and let's put the border up there instead. Now I want to make sure I'm still on the HUD layer. I'm going to insert a new object. And this one's going to be the health bar. And let's find the graphic for the inside of the health bar we created. And again, if you want to crop off the extra space, you can do that. Great. Now what you want to do is zoom in, and we're going to line up the insides of the health bar inside the border. Perfect. Now for this next part, we're going to make the event that controls how big the health bar is. Basically what we do is we create code so that as you get hit and the current HP global variable goes down, it shrinks the width of the green bar and reveals more of the dark color underneath it. But to do that, we have to look at the width of this bar. Now make sure that you have the inside of the health bar clicked on. And you're going to look over here where it says size. See where it says 238 by 22? That 238 number, yours is going to be different than 238. Mine's 238, yours is going to be something different. But that first number, which for me is 238, is going to be important. We're going to need that number in just a minute. So keep that in mind. As long as you have the health bar clicked on, you'll be able to see that number. So just make sure you have your health bar selected. Now let's go over to the event sheet. We're going to add a new event. We're going to go to System. We're going to go to Every Tick. Every tick means basically constantly. We're going to add an action. We're going to go down to the health bar. Now for the health bar, we're going to go down to the bottom and we're going to go down to set width. We're going to change the width of the health bar based on the current HP global variable. Now to do this, we have to put in an equation. I'll show you what the equation is first, and then I'll kind of talk through how the math works. But we're going to start by typing in a parentheses, and then the name of your current HP global variable. Mine is called current underscore HP. Yours is probably the same. If yours is different, you can find it. If you scroll up to the top, it's this name right here. So current HP. And then we're going to do that divided by, so I'm going to do a slash max underscore HP, or whatever you named your max HP value. And then a close parentheses. And then we're going to multiply this. Now, in order to put multiply in for like an equation, instead of writing an X, what you need to do is put an asterisk. So find the asterisk on your keyboard. It's above the 8 if you hold Shift 8. And we're going to multiply that by this number right here. Whatever the width is of your health bar. Mine's 238. Yours is probably going to be something different. Cool. Now what this equation does is it divides your current HP by your max HP. So say you have a max HP of 100 and you have 50 current life left. So if you divide 50 by 100, we have 0.5, right? Now if you multiply 0.5 by 238, the width of your bar, it reduces the bar in half. This equation makes it so whatever your current HP is, it reduces the width of the max health bar by that much. So we can click done and we can test it out. It's not going to work perfect. It's going to be a little weird, but we can at least test it. So you can see it's going down. What's weird though is it's shrinking in from the center, right? Let me try that again. I'm going to set my current HP higher. Notice how when I get hit, it shrinks in from both sides. If you like that, you can keep it that way. But most of the time, it's easier to read if it shrinks in from just one side. The way that we do that is by simply changing the origin point on your health bar. Double click on the health bar. We're going to put the origin point right on the left side. Now you can either do that by eye, just kind of put it on the left, or if you want to be more exact about it, you can right click on the origin point. Make sure, if you don't see that there, make sure you're on the origin point tool. Right click on it. You can go to quick assign and hit left. And they'll automatically put it right on that left edge. And once you've done that, you're going to have to kind of realign your health bar. It might jump around a little bit, so line it back up in the border. Now, if you try that, every time you get hit, that health bar will shrink in from the right side. Perfect. Now we still have the number there. You can keep it if you want. If you like to have both there for quick reference, you can, but you'll notice that you'll probably be using that graphic as a quick kind of reference for how much life you have rather than looking at that number. So what I'm going to do is just move that number out of the way. Maybe I'll want it later, so I'm just going to stick it out there on the side. Now there's one last thing we have to fix. There is a possibility that the health bar could go too far to the left. Like say, for example, I'm going to turn up the damage. I'm going to say every time I get hit, and you don't need to do this, but let me just show you as an example. Every time I get hit, it hits me for, let's say, 38 damage. And you'll notice that the health bar will actually go all the way past into the left edge. See how it jumps over there? That's weird, right? We want to fix that. And it's a pretty quick fix. We want to go back to this event that we made previously when the system is checking the current HP variable. And if it's less than or equal to 0, we have all this different stuff happen. I'm going to add one more action in here. I'm going to go to System. What I'm going to do is set value here. I'm going to set the value for the current HP to be 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this action. I'm going to drag it up to before the weight, anywhere above this weight command. So maybe up here above like the camera or maybe below the destroy. It doesn't really matter actually, as long as it's above the weight. What this does is it means that whenever the HP dips below 0, it automatically just sets it to 0. So it can't really be a negative number, because if it does go into the negatives, it just corrects itself back to 0. And then after 3 seconds, it restarts the layout and sets your current HP back to its max. Now that way, if we test it out, you'll see that even for that split second, the life doesn't go negative. It doesn't dip further to the left than the border. Perfect. We'll leave it at that today. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you guys next time.